Valhalla, one of the top 3 hunter academies in the world. Every year, countless hunters dream of stepping into its halls, but with an entrance ratio of 500 to 1, only a handful even pass the exams, and less than 150 ever graduate under the banner of Valhalla. The entrance test begins right after the briefing. Supervising the trial is senior instructor Lee Sang-chol. As he prepares, he's approached by Yu Minjun, heir of the powerful Yoshin family. Minjun casually remarks how fierce the competition looks this year, but Sang-chol reminds him, in Valhalla's selection process, anything can happen. The conversation quickly shifts. Minjun has come not just for the test, but to see his niece, Yu Soyun, and expectations for this girl are sky high. Soyun is a genius, born into the Yushin family, one of Korea's 5 great houses. At just 10 years old, she controlled mana equal to a high schooler. By 13, she was already infusing mana into her blade. She even took first place in the Yushin family's internal tournament. But what truly sets her apart is this. Soyun is said to have directly communicated with her family's guardian constellation. To understand how terrifying that is, you need to know about Korea's 5 great families. Each is tied to a divine guardian: the sword god of the Yushin family, the holy spear of the Jangsan family, Qingdao of the Choijin family, the fist god of the Osun family, and the bow god of the Dojun family. Ordinary hunters might receive blessings from constellations, but direct communication? That's a contract, and only the 5 families hold such privileges. Which is why Yu Soyun is considered a once-in-a-generation prodigy. The instructor Lee mentions that she is definitely one of the genius of this era. Minjun wants to observe his niece fight on the big screen, so he requests instructor Lee for that. Instructor also wants to watch her fight, so he agrees to it. And at that exact time, her match was about to begin. Yu Soyun is ready with her sword, and her opponent Kim just wants to get over with this as soon as possible. The boy seems unnervingly calm, even bored, yawning before the match. But everyone assumes it's because he knows he's about to face Yu Soyun and probably going to lose. The countdown begins. 3, 2, 1. The trial starts. Kim Joo-hyuk is stretching his shoulder without paying any attention to Yu Soyun, which irritates her, and she wants to beat our guy real bad. Soyun wastes no time pouring mana into her sword and unleashing a flawless strike. Her control, her technique, it's astonishing. Surely this fight will be over instantly, not to mention the exceptional mana she has. The slash of her sword is about to attack Kim's face, but bro is really just smiling at this. And boom, the unexpected happens. Everyone's face is filled with shock and horror plastered over their expressions, because the scene in front of them is nothing but a surprise. Kim is standing tall and proud, while Soyun lays defeated. The victor is Kim Joo-hyuk. No one expected this. In fact, everyone was expecting the opposite outcome. Kim wonders what the hell is going on and why everyone is so weak. Is this really 300 years in the future? We are shown the flashback of 300 years ago, the Tower of Destruction. At its peak stood Barsh, the god of destruction. Facing him was none other than the god of martial arts, Kim Hyun-oh. Their clash shook the world. Kim Hyun-oh delivered the final blow, stopping the destruction. Suddenly, the tower started to shake violently, and Kim found out that since this tower belonged to the god of destruction, who was no longer alive, it was going to collapse. He literally had no strength left to move. So he just sat there, contemplating how he was going to retire and enjoy the money he had earned all these years. He wondered if he should have brought his disciples along with him into this tower, but then decided no, it was for their own good that he didn't bring them, since Barki, the god of destruction, was too powerful. Kim gave a slight smile as he accepted his fate, but in that moment, he opened his eyes. Reborn, reincarnated, now living in the body of a 17-year-old Kim Joo-hyuk, 300 years after the Tower of Destruction. Although his body was weaker and younger, Kim Joo-hyuk's mind was still sharp, holding all the knowledge and experience from when he was once known as the god of martial arts. With this, he believed life would be easy. Enjoy a little luxury, take it slow. That was the plan, until that translucent system window appeared before him. It announced, "A Tower of Destruction will appear in 5 years." Joo-hyuk froze. Was this Barch's grudge still chasing him even after reincarnation? He thought bitterly, If only he had crushed that bastard completely back then. But regret was useless now. This time, he vowed, he would destroy the tower once and for all, and only then would he finally live in peace. But first, the message gave him two tasks: retrieve his weapon, retrieve his memory. He understood what the system meant by retrieving his weapon, but he was confused about the memory part. Since he had just opened his eyes in this world, he didn't know what this Valhalla place was. So he decided to work on that first. Day 4 of the Top 10 contest arrived. The stands were packed. More people than ever. The instructor was thinking about how the heirs of all 5 families were present. And then, there was the mysterious newcomer, Kim Joo-hyuk. His next opponent, Oh Se-hyuk, eldest son of the Osun family. Se-hyuk was assessing his opponent, Kim, and thought that this Kim guy was the same person who had defeated Yoo So-yeon on day 1. He didn't look special, so if he took down this new random kid, his reputation would increase drastically, especially among the other top 4 families. I don't know about you guys, but this dude does not look like a teenager. Man looks like he's pushing his early 30s already. But hey, who cares? Let's keep it rolling. Se-hyuk smirked, telling Kim that he was going to QD him instantly. But Kim just scratched his head, wondering what the hell QD even meant. Se-hyuk proudly explained, it stood for quickly destroy. Kim burst out laughing and told this guy to FO. That completely confused Se-hyuk, since he had never heard of it before. Honestly, I was hoping Kim would just say it to his face. And oh look, my wish came true. Kim straight up told him it means F off, flipping the middle finger just to make sure the message was crystal clear. Man, I can feel the secondhand embarrassment just saying this out loud. Poor dude was fuming with rage. Probably the first time in his life anyone had ever insulted him like that. The match began. Se-hyuk's true talent wasn't brains or skill, it was his body. He had been born with a first-class physique, the kind of raw strength others could only reach after years of mana cultivation and relentless training. Muscles coiled like steel beneath his skin, his movements carrying the weight of sheer power. For that alone, people called him a genius. The pride of the Osun family. But genius physique meant nothing to the god of martial arts. Kim keeps flipping him off for no reason, which fuels Se-hyuk's anger even more as he readies his fist. You can practically see the veins popping on his head. Meanwhile, Kim is just standing there with his finger up, ready to show this musclehead that superior physique doesn't guarantee a win. Se-hyuk gets angry far too easily. Se-hyuk throws a powerful punch, but Kim effortlessly dodges it, since there's no real technique behind Se-hyuk's attack. Kim sweeps his leg right below Se-hyuk, and Se-hyuk looks like he just saw a ghost. Kim gathers energy in his palm and slams it straight into Se-hyuk's gut, like he's settling a generational grudge. Se-hyuk literally blacks out from the sheer force of the blow. The arena fell silent as Kim Joo-hyuk stood victorious. Though his body was weaker than it had been before reincarnation, his strength was more than enough to handle monsters with ease. Spectators stared in disbelief. Se-hyuk had been sent sprawling to the ground with a single precise strike. Even Se-hyuk hadn't expected something so deceptively simple to bring him down. Chul-shun, the head of the Osun family and a master of hand-to-hand combat at 48, watched in stunned silence. How could anyone call that attack simple? Even a son who had never seriously trained in martial arts, who had only honed his physique, could dodge ordinary punches from his peers. Yet this strike was untouchable. Se-hyuk, his temper flaring, had lunged recklessly at Kim Joo-hyuk, even unleashing magic, a rare move for him, in a desperate attempt to end the fight quickly. Kim Joo-hyuk, however, tilted his head with casual precision, dodging effortlessly. Anticipating that Se-hyuk would strike exactly where he planned, Kim Joo-hyuk shifted his center of gravity in a blur, moving faster than Se-hyuk's maximum speed. From the moment Se-hyuk entered the arena, Kim Joo-hyuk had already read the entire battle like an open book, a terrifying talent that left even veterans speechless. Not everyone was naive though. Some people recognized Kim's true value, and they weren't about to stay calm. They were definitely going to try to forge a connection with him. Chul-shin schemed to claim this prodigy for his family at any cost. He wanted this talent to belong solely to him. Meanwhile, the crowd roared for Choi Ah-rin, though Kim Joo-hyuk remained baffled by their obsession. Why were seasoned veterans referring to a 17-year-old girl as Nuna? The final bout had arrived. Kim Joo-hyuk versus Choi Ah-rin. Choi Arin, the second daughter of the Chan family, faced him with a calm that belied her youth. Neither moved at first. In fact, no one moved an inch for several seconds. Kim Joo-hook sensed her strategy. She was waiting for him to make the first move. He recognized the subtle provocation and appreciated her common sense. She didn't rush into the battle like Hyuk might have. Instead, she actually read the room. This impressed Kim, and he allowed her to play her hand. He took a step closer to her, essentially inviting her to show what she was capable of, and whether she was even worth his attention. Choi Arin planted her stance against Kim and grasped the hilt of her sword, summoning her mana, which crackled around her hand. Choi Arin's mana manifested as lightning. At just 17, she had already mastered elemental manipulation, a feat that left everyone in awe. Spectators acknowledged that all the children from the 5 families were truly exceptional. Arin unsheathed her sword as Kim continued moving toward her, lightning arcing around her, her eyes glowing with fierce determination. She swung, fully expecting to cut down her opponent, but was left dumbfounded when no one was there. Kim Joo-hook, wearing a faint smirk, had already anticipated her attack and now stood beside her. Why would she let her opponent know where she was going to strike just by looking in that direction, he wondered. As Arin turned her head, Kim seized the moment, delivering a crushing punch straight to her gut. I'm gonna be honest, guys. He literally punched her with his non-dominant hand. And it didn't even look like he put much effort into it. Unlike with Seok, bro is going easy on waifu candidate number 1. Arin staggered from the punch, and bro here looked genuinely impressed. It seemed she had managed to block his strike with her sword just before it could obliterate her from the inside out. So yeah, that punch definitely had some power. It threw her back and created some distance between them. Kim grew a bit serious and even more impressed. Despite him not going all out, this girl had blocked his attack and hadn't been knocked down in a single hit, unlike the other kids from the top families. Still, Arin was visibly trembling from the sheer force of the strike. Kim Joo-hook casually pressed his fist against her sword as she struggled to regain her composure, testing her defenses. He told her he was going to attack from point-blank range, so she should try to block it, and then delivered a punch so precise and powerful that even Lord Bruce Lee would have been proud of his technique. Arin attempted to evade, but it was futile. You could see it on her face the moment she realized she was done for. She hit the ground face first. Finally, it was over. Poor girl wouldn't have to suffer any longer. Waifu candidate number 1 was safe. Sort of. Kim Joo-hook noticed something was off. His stance had a minor flaw, a tiny imperfection, but at this point, it didn't matter. Victory was his. As he stepped forward, reporters swarmed him, bombarding him with invitations from prestigious guilds. Some promised immediate recruitment, others offered the finest treatment imaginable. Kim Joo-hook, completely unamused, silenced them all with a single curse and a middle finger. Bro didn't give a damn about anyone. He didn't care about his reputation, and he had been just as brutal with Arin, all because she survived his first attack. Outside, the public debated his temperament. Is Kim Joo-hook a psychopath? After winning first place, he reportedly chased away guild representatives while swearing. Yet even his harsh behavior couldn't overshadow his talent. Destroying 5 powerful families in a single tournament guaranteed acceptance anywhere in Valhalla. Some were stunned by Choi Arin's defeat. The next day, all freshmen were welcomed into Valhalla. Despite its century-long legacy, Kim Joo-hook found it dull. He noticed someone watching him, but the gaze quickly shifted away. Kim wondered whether he had stood out too much in yesterday's competition. But oh well, he didn't care. His priorities were elsewhere, retrieving his weapon and figuring out whatever the memory part was. He realized something, but it wasn't revealed just yet. With that, the ceremony came to an end. The classroom shifted in an instant, transforming into a virtual battle arena. Kim Le-gun, former head of the Choijin Guild and a Valhalla instructor at just 24, surveyed the students with a frown. Something about the class distribution didn't make sense. In front stood Yu So-yeon of the Yoshun family. Beside her was Choi Arin from the Choijin family, and in the center, a muscular man, none other than Seok of the Osun family. Kim started to sweat heavily, silently asking himself what crime he had committed in his past life to deserve this. 3 of the 5 families' top talents, all in the same class? Bro was almost his pants. He gave a side eye, noticing Kim Joo-hook and wondering, what on earth is that monster doing here? Why is the guy who defeated all those top students in his class? The instructor was sweating bullets. This was completely absurd. He was so doomed this year. Lee-gun exhaled slowly. This year's teaching assignment was going to be a challenge, but he had to remain calm. After all, decisive action was required. Today, he would take charge of this class and guide these prodigies through their first lesson. Instructor Lee-gun introduced himself, and without warning, he pressed a button. The room's environment shifted again. The students were transported into an unfamiliar space. Their classroom had vanished, replaced by a virtual battle arena, which takes place in middle of a forest. Our MC is amazed by what just happened. The instructor grabbed his sword and showed some bloodlust here. Goblins and orcs began to materialize, easily numbering 100 or more, their eyes glowing with menace. They charged toward the humans with murderous intent. Seiyuk thought he might be able to take on at least 100 of these monsters, but as some of the creatures charged, a shimmering barrier suddenly appeared, preventing them from harming the students. And you could see it on Seiyuk's face, the expression of someone who might not even survive one of these, let alone 100. Instructor Lee-gun smirks that the barrier is working perfectly fine, holding the monsters at bay. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Then he called over Kim Joo-hyuk. "Can you handle these monsters by yourself?" he asked. Kim Joo-hyuk's gaze swept over the charging creatures. "You mean all of these?" he replied calmly. Lee-gun confirmed. Silence fell. Most of the students had only seen monsters in books, never in real life. Naturally, even Joo-hook felt a flicker of caution. Lee-gun wanted to crush the ego of our MC. He wanted Kim Joo-hyuk to feel fear, to quickly admit defeat. Only then would he start the class. It seemed that he, or maybe other instructors, did this kind of thing to remind students of their place, possibly to prevent them from putting themselves in real danger when they ventured out into the world, thinking they could take on any monster just because they did well in competition. But instead of hesitation, a confident smile crossed his face. He stepped forward, radiating a sense of absolute control. Lee-gun was furious at Kim Joo-hyuk's attitude and asked whether that smug smile meant he could take on all the monsters by himself. Without a hint of hesitation, Kim agreed. This only made Lee-gun angrier, and he decided to let Kim Joo-hyuk face the entire horde, just so the boy would finally learn his place. But out of nowhere, our MC protested. He said he could handle it, but what would he get in return? After all, this felt like a test, and every test should come with a prize, right? Lee-gun says if Kim Joo-hyuk takes care of these monsters, then he will do whatever Joo-hyuk wants. He will grant Joo-hyuk's wish. This leaves MC thinking, because the details are lacking. Nonetheless, this prize might come in handy, so Joo-hyuk accepted it. Lee-gun warned him not to take things lightly. Even though this was a virtual environment, the monsters attacked exactly like real ones. But Kim Joo-hyuk just waved it off and asked the instructor for a sword. I mean, come on, he could probably solo these things barehanded, but he's gotta at least act like a student, right? Show a little weakness here and there. With a straight face, Lee-hun handed over his own sword. Kim Joo-hyuk gripped the weapon, ready to face the test head-on. After all, he couldn't possibly let down the ladies who were watching him, now could he? As soon as the door opened, Kim Joo-hyuk took his first ferocious swing, cutting down 10 monsters in one strike. He spun around, and with his second swing, nearly a dozen more were sliced apart. Some monsters tried to get sneaky, lunging at him from behind, but damn, he was brutal. He remembered how, 300 years ago, when monsters first began to ravage the earth, humans didn't have the luxury of choosing weapons. Safety was the only priority. They grabbed whatever they could. Shovels, farming tools, anything that could be swung like a weapon. Kim Joo-hyuk tightened his grip on the sword as an orc rushed from behind. Effortlessly, he sidestepped, dodging with ease. Their attack patterns were far too simple to predict. Sure, these were just fake NPC monsters, but they are doing a pretty good job acting like the real thing. Let's be honest, Kim Joo-hyuk wanted to show off his skills in front of the ladies, and especially in front this Lee-gunner. Oops, I meant instructor Lee-gunner. After all, he was the one who had underestimated him. And now, Lee-gunner was stunned speechless. The sword he had given Kim Joo-hyuk was just a plain weapon, no magic, no enhancements, yet the precision and sheer control on display left even the instructor astonished. The students, meanwhile, were frozen. Chills ran down their spines as they watched monster after monster crumble. Si-hyuk, especially, was in disbelief. Monster. No, the real monster here wasn't those virtual creatures. It was Kim Joo-hyuk. And then we've got our waifu candidate, watching from the sidelines, cheeks tinged pink. Maybe she did hit her head too hard in their last fight, but hey, some ladies do like it rough, no questions asked. Back to the fight. Kim Joo-hyuk stood tall, monsters scattered all around him. He had only one goal now: reach the Constellations room, claim his weapon, and uncover the mystery. Until then, bro was straight up aura farming as he stood proud among the defeated horde. He turned his head, shooting a sharp glance at the instructor Instructor Lee-gun. Without saying a word, his eyes made the question clear. You should better keep your promise, or else. Yeah, I think the instructor got the message loud and clear. Time passed quickly and evening settled in. The teacher wrapped up the class, telling the students to rest in their dorm since it had been a long first day. We cut to our MC, Kim Joo-hyuk, slouched in his chair, looking exhausted. No matter how strong or how old you are, school is brutal. Bro just wanted to finish his business here and get out of this place. He had zero interest in sticking around this hellhole. After all, he'd been so far removed from education that teaching disciples was one thing, but sitting in a classroom? Never. Imagine being over 300 years old and getting your very first school lesson. Yeah, anyone would cry. Still, like a good student, pun intended, he got up and left the classroom. He ponders that despite the class being boring as hell, it was still informative, as he learned these things called constellation, because something like this never existed in his previous life. For example, there was a story about one of the constellations. In his previous life, such a concept never even existed. A constellation was the title given to those who, after surviving incredible strokes of fortune, transcended into godlike beings. Most constellations remained connected to hunters through sacred relics, artifacts that granted extraordinary powers. Valhalla Academy in Korea was home to countless such relics, and with its century-long history, it stood proudly as the third largest academy in the world. That was impressive to most people, but to Kim Joo-hyuk, it was nothing special. Everything else the instructors were babbling about, swordsmanship drills, monster-slaying tactics, was nonsense in his eyes. This body is too weak, he thought. He need to focus on martial arts and rebuild his foundation. As Kim Joo-hyuk left, he noticed someone trailing behind him, Choi A-rin. Now this was definitely going to be interesting. But before we get to that, let's take a peek at what's happening in the teacher's lounge. Instructor Kim Lee-gun remained unsettled. What he had witnessed in the virtual battle simulation defied reason. Kim Joo-hyuk had faced 120 monsters alone, and he had cut them down without pause. The level of composure and precision he displayed was impossible for an ordinary high school student, let alone one supposedly experiencing monsters for the first time. Yet the Academy's records painted a completely unremarkable past. Kim Joo-hyuk was an orphan, raised in a small orphanage deep within a dangerous neighborhood. There was no sign of noble lineage or elite training in his history. At first, Lee-gun considered the possibility of a fraud, someone hiding behind forged documents. But instructor Lee Sang-chol conducted a discreet investigation, and the results confirmed everything. Kim Joo-hyuk's past was exactly as recorded. Ordinary, obscure, and without prestige. That only made the situation more disturbing. No fraud would risk infiltrating Valhalla and causing such an uproar during the entrance trials. Yet the power Joo-hyuk displayed was undeniable. What unsettled Lee-gun even more was not the massacre of the monsters, but the boys' demand afterward. Kim Joo-hyuk asked for nothing more than access to the Constellation Room. After the first semester, Kim Joo-hyuk would normally have been able to access the Constellation Room without needing special permission. However, if instructor Lee Sang-chol petitioned the principal, an exception could be made to grant him entry earlier. For that, Kim Lee-gun was grateful. After all, it was Sang-chol who had introduced him to this class, and that decision carried its share of responsibility. Though the Constellation Room's lower floors were generally open to students, the upper levels, especially the 5th floor, remained tightly restricted. Allowing Joo-hyuk early access could raise questions. Even so, what truly unsettled Kim Lee-gun was not logistics, but what the coming year might hold. The senior instructors whispered that the main reason was Kim Joo-hyuk himself. He was already disruptive enough, yet in this same class were 3 heirs from the great families. Managing all of them together would not be easy. Sang-chol reminded him that matters could have been worse. an exchange student from the Ventric family, had been placed in another class. At that, Legun stiffened. A direct descendant of the infamous Ventric bloodline, Rockdil Ventric. The Ventric name carried weight across Europe, though Rockdil's own record was tainted. Rumors spread that a series of reckless pranks had led to his expulsion from a British academy. Compared to that troublemaker, Lee John think that perhaps his own class was not so cursed after all. His situation is better than instructor Sangchol. Meanwhile, outside the academy halls, Kim Joo-hyuk confronted Choi Arin, who had been shadowing him since their duel. He asked what was up with her. Why was she even following him? For a moment, it almost felt like she was about to confess her feelings. She hesitated, but then she made a bold request. She wants everyone who's watching this to subscribe and like this video so you can watch what happens next in this story.